Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 19 of the Give 'em Heck podcast. I'm Brian. This is your host, Penny. And to any new viewers or viewers who forgot, we started up an X account for our social media. Depending on how popular it gets, or at least how populated it gets, kind of want to do some really cool things with it. We haven't done anything much in it yet, but what I was thinking is when it gets popular enough, we could do polls on different topics. Or I know we had mentioned this last week, but like stories that our followers bring in that maybe they want us to talk about. Also wanted to do like announcements for live streams. Because I know you have to, I can't remember I think it was TikTok that you have to have a certain amount of views to do live streams, but I don't know how YouTube works, but I have ambitions for this.
Okay.
But we just got to get popular first. Because obviously popularity
helps.
Well, you think about it, you go all out for less than 20 people. Not that we're not, it's not that we're unthankful for the people that are watching. It's just obviously want to really make something of this.
Right.
Really have high ambitions. I'm getting a lot of good feedback from the friends that have watched this, which I'm thankful for. People are saying that they're learning more about me than they thought they would.
Is that good or bad?
Some people have said they don't want to challenge me too much.
Oh.
Which is like, I don't know why you're taking it as like a bad thing. And they're like, because you know too much. And I'm like, I don't know everything. And it's interesting to see it's interesting to see another side of people when you open up.
Yeah, that's a good thing though.
It is, but it's interesting because I guess the biggest thing I can say is because people never really saw that side of me. So when they see it, they're like, we need to talk, And yeah, it's like, I think you've mentioned it before. It's like having a slightly different worldview can really help somebody kind of open their eyes up to a different side of looking at things.
Absolutely.
I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, forgive us for the slow progress on our other things that we have promised. We're working on it.
Yeah, it's hard when you have to work and do life.
Life, yeah.
Yeah, you're very limited on time.
But wanted to say, again, with absolute sincerity, thank you, everybody who has been watching our podcast. Yeah. You have no idea how much it means to us.
Yeah.
Continue to support us in any way that you can, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Just, even if you just watch, that's more than we could ever ask for. But other than that, I don't have any other announcements, so I think we'll jump headfirst right into this concrete.
Yeah. That's the way. Oh my gosh. Well, again, welcome everyone that's been watching, any new viewers. And like Brian said, when we started our podcast, our main reason was to help us through things that we'd been through to heal. And I don't know about you, Brian, I can't speak for you. I think it's helped you as much as it's helped me, but it definitely has, changed a lot of views, but I see myself differently, obviously. Not a bad thing, but it has helped me to heal. Do you think so too with you?
Well, yes and no. Not really so much a healing perspective.
Okay.
It's more of just hearing things that you have said, or hearing things that my friends have said that I've watched. It showed me that people want answers more than they think they do, or comfort. Or
direction.
Yeah, it's interesting for me, and I hate saying this because it makes me sound like I'm being arrogant, and I'm really not. I like to remain humble. I like to admit that I don't know everything, but For me, I kind of got things figured out enough in my own life that I'm pretty content.
You are.
So like for
And
me,
I'm not.
it's not so much that I sit, in this encased bubble of like how you're living is wrong and I'm right. It's not that. I'm comfortable. You know what I'm saying? It's like sitting in a row of seats and you've kind of settled in. Your seat's nice and warm. It's configured to you.
Wow.
It doesn't mean your seat's any better than the person next to you. It just means you're comfortable where you're at. I can remember this one story, and I don't mean to go down.
No, go ahead.
There was a lady, I can't remember her name, and I wouldn't mention her name even if I did, but it was back when you guys were in college. And she did not like my confidence.
Wow.
This was back when I was like probably in my senior year of high school. So this was a long time ago. But I can remember she came up to me one day and she's like, I don't like the way you carry yourself. Wow. And I looked at her and said, of course, back then is when I started growing my backbone a little bit. So I just looked at her and said, what are you talking about? Like, she came at me aggressive, so I was going to come at her aggressive. I believe in, again, going down a rabbit trail, respect is not expected. It's earned.
Right.
If you give me respect, I'll give you respect. I don't care what position you're in. You could be the president of the United States. If you come to me with an attitude, I'll give you an attitude right back. I match energy, So she comes at me like that. She says, I don't like the way you carry yourself. And I looked at her and said, what are you talking about? And she goes, you just seem like you're very comfortable, like you don't need to know anything. And I said, well, you don't know me. And you want me to be honest with you? You seem incredibly insecure. And the way she looked at me was hilarious. The way she looked at me, it's like no one's ever talked to her like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's like she was one of those people that everything she said was like the gospel truth. So she looked at me and she's like, I'm not insecure. And I said, well, then why did you come at me? Because of the way I carry myself. You're clearly not comfortable enough with yourself to look at me and say, he looks like he has things figured out. And keep in mind, this was an older woman. Okay, we're talking about somebody who was probably in her 50s at the time, late 40s. I was in I think I was like 19 or 20. So she's coming at essentially a kid, young adult,
right,
with this thing, and I've had people to this day say the exact same thing, and I notice the ones that do that are always the most insecure. Yeah. They can't stand seeing somebody that has it all figured out.
Right.
Why? But there's two sides to that coin. You have those people that are like that and they react with aggression, or you have those people that are like that and they come at you wanting to know.
Yep.
And it's interesting. I've never seen a middle ground. Maybe there is a middle ground. Maybe there is somebody out there that genuinely does not care. But in my experience, it's one or the other. It's aggression or interest. There's never a middle ground.
Interesting. You mentioned earlier that you're finding that most people, if not all, that have watched the podcast, is they're looking for answers.
Answers or knowledge, I guess you could say.
Do you think they've always been looking? And I'm not trying to sound stupid, but people get comfortable. Do you think that, because life does leave us with more questions than answers, but do you think that something changes in their life that they step back and they say, maybe I need to question more in life than just living it mundane?
I think it can be the extreme on either ends.
Okay.
I think there's people that look their entire lives, and then there are those people that looked, never found it, and gave up.
Oh.
And then it's when they finally find that difference is when they start really looking.
It's true.
It's
like a wake up.
Well, that saying, it's like, you never know. No, what's the saying? You can't miss what you never had.
Yeah.
So it's like, to some people, they can feel something's missing, but because they don't know what it is, they either keep looking in a mundane way,
hoping it'll show up.
hoping it'll just pop up. And then one day, when they think they're not looking for it anymore, it finally does pop up, and they're like, oh, that's it.
Right.
You know? So it can be the extreme
Yeah.
on either end.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, though, from my experience, I find a lot of times it's people that have always been looking and they just haven't found it.
Yeah.
And then they talk to me for about 30 minutes, and then all of a sudden they walk away like their whole world's been turned upside down.
Yeah, you've done that to me. You say you're comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and I say I'm still looking, which is funny because you're so much younger. But maybe I just came to the game a lot later in life.
It happens.
I mean, you grew up fast.
I had to.
I didn't. So maybe that's the difference. Maybe when I finally had to, that's when it changed. I don't know. I can't pinpoint it.
Like I said, it life progresses differently for all
everybody.
of us.
It does.
So you can meet somebody even younger than me who, like, I meet younger people who agree with probably 99% of what I say.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to know the funny thing? Oftentimes, it's the younger people that get it.
Is it because the older people are set in their ways? They figure it's too hard to change or too late to change, or maybe their way has always worked, so they're comfortable in their way. So
I find that, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of them are set in their ways, but they're also miserable.
It's true.
They're very miserable.
It's true.
It worked in their younger lives.
Oh, but life's changed.
But as they got older,
Yeah.
it got to a point where all of a sudden they just couldn't handle it anymore, and they kind of just gave up.
Yeah.
Became husks of their former selves, and they just stick to their old ways because that's all they know.
Well, it works. Somewhat.
It works for them.
Works for them. Yeah. But I don't think that that's a good place to be, though, because you always have to have the mindset that you can change and you can grow. I think.
It's never too late.
It isn't.
And if you tell yourself that it is too late, you're lying to yourself.
Right. Absolutely.
In spite of how grounded I am, my viewpoints on things change all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very adaptable, and that's the problem. I find that a lot of the older generations, like older than me, they don't want to admit change.
Right.
They don't want to adapt.
Well, in their generation, too, was, you take someone who's a lot even older than me, their lifestyle was different. Technology has changed our life. Situations in life have changed. And you got to adapt to those things, too. And sometimes you hit a wall
Mm-hmm.
where you're like, okay, how do I deal with this?
Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate, but I keep encouraging people to break out of their shells. And I'm not even talking about socially or emotionally. I'm talking about like mind view, like life-changing. Break out of your shell. Stop limiting yourself. And they just, like I said, it's one extreme or the other. Either they're more than willing to do it, or they don't want to do it at all. They just rather retract back into their shell. And I'm like, that's living a very miserable existence.
Well, and that is what you're doing. You're existing.
It's an existence, yeah.
Right. And I think for me, that's why I can sit here and say I'm not comfortable, because I don't want to stop growing.
Yeah.
And maybe it's part of it too, Brian, is because I'm still trying to find. But in that too, I can honestly say to you, I don't know what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's the problem. You got to know what you're looking for.
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Oh, eventually you will. I'm not like demanding that you know what you're looking for, but like find the things in life that pull you away from the negatives and focus on the positives.
That's hard.
It's very hard because it's easy to be negative.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to hold back. It's easy to retract.
Mm-hmm. It's not only comfortable in the sense that it helps you to live that mundane life, whether you're doing it on purpose or not, but it keeps it keeps the hurts, right? It keeps the hoping of those bad things happening at arm's length. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. That's not healthy.
It isn't, because you're not going to stop those things from happening, no matter how hard you try.
Mm-hmm.
Something's going to do it sooner or later, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of our podcast for today. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't go anywhere. Sit down.
Sit down.
Sit down. So again, I'm going to read our disclaimer that we are not doctors, psychologists, or counselors. We are not given any medical or psychological advice. We're just simply here to discuss real life situations to give hope, encouragement, and hopefully instill change. So like Brian said, this is episode 19. And in our last episode, Brian, we talked about endurance and perseverance. And I asked you what endurance meant, and you gave me a really long but a really good explanation, and I like that. And you also said, I also asked you, what does perseverance mean? I looked it up, like I told you guys last week, that endurance was the ability to withstand a hardship or adversity. Perseverance is the continued effort to do or achieve something despite the difficulties, the failure, or the opposition. Did you want to add anything to that, Brian, or kind of recap on what you had talked about last week with the endurance and the perseverance?
No, I think I pretty much nailed it. I really don't have anything to add to it.
Okay. And any of you that didn't see last week's podcast, obviously you can go back and view that. So what we talked about is we talked about our mindsets changing. That's what we focused on, because I wanted to bring the podcast in a different light last week to where we talk about changing our physical situations, but I wanted to talk about how our mindsets are changing. And I had mentioned that as we get older, our mindsets do change, meaning this, that things that were important to us when we were younger are not the same as we get older. And I had mentioned a saying that when you lived more years than you have left, you start thinking differently about life. And even though you might, I don't know, live till you're 100 or more, the thing is you don't really know, right? Because life's not a guarantee. But that doesn't change the fact that your mindset does change as you get older. And we talked a little bit about that a few minutes ago when you were saying how some people, they don't want to.
Right.
They just want to stay in that, which is, to me, I don't understand that, but some people make that choice, right?
Some people just like to be in the bubble. And
it's safer?
I mean, it can be, but like I said, personally, I think it's more dangerous. I think it brings people into a position, because even talking to like much older people, like I've talked to people through my my social platforms there that are like in their 60s, and you confront them with a challenging viewpoint, they suffer from cognitive dissonance. Like it almost makes them angry that their worldview is getting changed. Like they see it, they know I'm right, but they don't want to admit it. They would much rather sit there and get angry with me than accept it, or even question it.
Well, your mindset, I think, has to change, because here's the thing, life changes. What worked in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, the years, the 20s, 30s, 40s, it's not going to work in 2025.
No.
It's just not.
No, and it's not even just a matter of like opinions. It's just life in general.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Everything changes. So to get angry over the fact that what worked then doesn't work now is not benefiting.
If anything, it holds you back.
Exactly. That's what I wanted you to say. You fell right into it. So I asked you, how does endurance and perseverance fit into your mindset changing? And I had said to just believe in yourself. That's the endurance. And to know that while you're going through a hardship or a hard time, that you can make it. And that's the perseverance. And know that you may be a different person on the other side. That life will change you, but that may not be a bad thing. And another thing I had mentioned in that is to not apologize for the person that you're becoming. And you've said this before, Brian, but to embrace the changes, embrace that new person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying. Well, you can tell me. I feel like I've come, I don't know, a long ways, but I feel like I've come a ways. Yeah?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Just kidding. No, yeah. No, I see a difference. I do. I see a difference. I know you're not there yet,
I know.
but you're definitely better than you used to be. I can remember, years
Careful.
ago where you would have looked at everything I would have told you and either just said I was flat out wrong, or you would have just laughed at me.
Mm-hmm.
But now here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. So, yes, we talked about endurance and perseverance and that you can make it. And it does go along with the podcast today, which in today's podcast, we're going to discuss. The title is Battered but Not Broken. So I'm going to ask you, Brian, what does battered but not broken mean to you?
You want individually or together? Because usually you say, what does battered mean to you?
No, I want it together.
Battered but not broken.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty self-explanatory, really. I can't really add any in-depth enlightenment to my perspective on it. To me, it's like you can throw everything you've got at me, and I might get knocked down, but I'm going to get right back up.
Mm-hmm.
Which is literally the philosophy of my life, actually.
Yeah, it is. Why do you think taking it separately means anything different?
No, I guess when I asked that, I meant more of like, do you want me to really expound or elaborate? But
go ahead.
Like again, it's pretty self-explanatory, because for people that get to the point in their lives where bad things or inconveniences can batter them around, sometimes people think that them getting thrown around or beaten down, they consider that breaking. But I always tell people that you're stronger than you think you are.
Right.
The only time you get broken is when you let yourself get broken.
Right. And I had I was at work the other day and a patient said that, and I can't remember the context of what we were talking about, but she said, I'm broken. And I thought to myself, like, is it because you're allowing yourself to be broken? Which in some cases, that's not a bad thing, because maybe you're admitting that you're getting better. But like you said, to lay down and let that happen, eventually you have to pick yourself up and realize you're not broken.
When somebody says that to me, that they're broken, to me, it sounds like they're saying I've given up.
Okay. That's sad.
That's what it is to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, so you've given up.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Well, how do you just give up? You can't.
I don't think it's a how. I think it's a why.
Oh.
Like, you see how the changing of the word can really bring out more of a meaning?
Okay.
Like, anybody can sit there and tell you how they, broke themselves or how they quit, but why?
Well,
because you think what happened is the end all be all to the existence of you?
Maybe it's just easier.
Bingo. It's easy. This is why, like, there's a thing that I have with people that are, like, my friend group, for example, that are going through a hard time, and I try to help them with it. They, I've had people sit there and tell me, oh, I'm going through a hard time, or I can't do this anymore, and then I try to help them, and it's almost like they don't want me to. So I sit there and say, why should I bother helping you if you're not even willing to help yourself?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Because I can pick you up, but the best I can do is drag you through the mud if you're just going to be dead weight.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and I often ask, why?
Right. That is true.
Not how, not when. Those are later questions.
Mm.
The why is the now question.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not only easier, but a lot of times I think, and this is where I was, and I think I'm moving forward in this, is that knowing that I would have to move forward from the brokenness, what else are you going to have to deal with to get to the other side?
Well, it's
I know
not
for me personally, and I don't mean to cut you off, I didn't want to deal with any more. I didn't want to deal with any more feelings of it. I didn't want to deal with any of it. Not just the feelings of the emotion through it, but just, I was done.
well, again, situations are important. I'm not going to sit here and say that personal struggles that one person deals with may not be the bottom for them, I guess you could say. But to people that I tend to encourage, people who say they've given up or they're at rock bottom, I tell them, you only have one way to go from here, and it's up.
Yeah.
If you've hit the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
then what more do you have to lose?
Sometimes it's hard to pick yourself up, though.
It is. It is hard. And I'm not going to sit here and deny that. I'm not going to sit here and berate anybody who may be watching that's at rock bottom and say, just get back up. It's easy. I know it's not. That's why you need to look for those around you that are willing to encourage you. People,
Right.
like people that have even said that there needs to be more people like me who are willing to tell them the hard truth.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. People that hit the bottom are oftentimes surrounded by people who've coddled them.
Yeah. And it doesn't help.
No, it doesn't.
You think it does, but it doesn't.
Exactly. There needs to be a balance of realistic emotion.
Mm.
And sometimes I often tell people, use the emotions you've always considered to be negative, use those emotions to drive you.
Yeah.
Anger can be a very motivating force.
It can.
It doesn't always have to be a negative.
Yeah.
Context and everything is important.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
It could be a refusal to give up.
There you go. Well, and sometimes you have to move on, because I knew I couldn't give up, not only for myself, but for family, for friends. I mean, at some point you have to come out from under the covers and live again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your bubble can only hold itself for so long.
Right. So what we talk a lot is about living through tragedy and how difficult that can be, which we've touched on a little bit already. But although tragedy comes to all of us, it's not only how we deal with it, but who we become through it and after it. We can feel battered while we're going through it and after for quite a while. Sometimes it's a very long time. But the important thing to remember is that you are not broken, but rather maybe you're growing. So I don't look at the battered part of it, Brian, as being, like we talked about the broken part a little bit, but when I look at the battered part of it, I think in the end, the batteredness of what you've been through will not only make you stronger, but will help you to grow. I don't think it's always going to be a bad thing. I'm not saying that welcome every tragedy that comes into your life with a smile. That's not what I'm saying. Because life's going to happen, expectedly or unexpectedly, whatever that tragedy means to you, right? But I don't think while you're going through the tragedy, I know you can't see a lot of things at that time. Things are very fuzzy. But later on in life, I think you'll look at that as a lesson, and maybe through it you are growing.
I often tell people to come back from any kind of negative thing that they're going through. I keep telling them, come back like a weed. And they look at me and they're like, what do you mean? So think about it.
That's good.
You look outside during a drought in your yard. Grass is dead. Grass is brown. But what do you always see standing tall and green? It's always the weeds.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think to myself, where's that weed getting the inspiration or the nourishment or just the will to look at drought and say, you know what? I'm still going to open up. I'm still going to grow.
And the weeds are the strongest.
Yeah. They can grow anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And it's so funny that you think, if anything, the grass should have the the ability to be like, okay, we're going through a drought. This is what we've prepared for. But it's always the grass that dies first, and it's the weed that rises up from the dry and decaying soil and stands tall.
That's good.
And I think to myself, if only we as humans had that kind of resilience when it came to the things that beat us down or the environment that would beat us down. Imagine that.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. We had a professor in college that would always say to us to grow where you're planted. Meaning where you're at in life right now. Mm-hmm. Don't try to discourage or negate that situation you're going through, even though it is hard at the time, no doubt. But like I said, the batteredness is maybe the part where you are growing and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So don't despise that time. I don't want to make it sound like welcome every tragedy that comes into your life or go looking for it. That's not what I'm saying.
I oftentimes do, and I don't think this will shock you, but I welcome conflict.
You do.
I welcome conflict. I welcome confrontation. I welcome everything that I don't like because it helps me to adapt to it. It helps me to learn from it. It helps me to deal with it in future situations. People that are oftentimes put in situations where they never have to deal with anything negative, oftentimes are the ones that get stressed out or run from it the easiest.
Yeah. And I'm sitting here smiling only because with what you're saying, I know it's true because I've been with you out in public. And where, I guess I'm kind of middle ground because I don't go looking for it. If I have to confront it, I will. But I don't think I'm as welcoming of it as you are.
Well, it's like I have a friend, and I won't mention her name. I know who she is. I know her name.
Well, that's good.
Will you be surprised how many friends that I've had for a long time that I only know them by their usernames?
That's true. Their gamer name or something.
Yeah, but I actually personally know this person. I've seen them in real life.
Yes.
And if she ever does watch this, I don't want her to think I'm throwing her under the bus. I'm using it as an example. But she's the kind of person who will come to me and tell me what she wants to do. But when it comes time for her to do it, she won't.
Yeah. I wonder what the hindrance is. Again, is it maybe just not, to her, maybe it feels like it's better to just not deal?
I think that's what it is. I think she just doesn't want to deal with the consequences.
There it is. It's always consequences,
and
right?
And for me, I would much rather deal with the consequences based on what she's currently dealing with. Because
sometimes you have to, though.
Well, I find
it will come to that.
I find it really funny that the more that she deals with, the more she withers.
Yeah, and that's
if she would just deal with it, it would be so much better for her in the long run. She's looking at it from a short-term basis,
right? And that's what I'm trying to say. Sooner or later, it may come to that point in that situation where you're gonna have to confront it.
Yeah, and she won't for some reason. She thinks that the short-term solution is better than the long-term resolution.
Not always. Not always. Because it shapes you, but not just shapes you, but it may even change that situation for her in a dramatic way, which even could turn that situation out for the better.
Oh, yeah. And I've told her that. And it's funny, she 100% agrees with everything I say.
Wow.
But she just won't do it.
I wonder what it is.
Could be a multitude of factors.
Right. It could.
And that goes into what I said earlier. She's younger than me, surprisingly, but based on the way that she talks, she seems like she's a much older individual.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, some people have to grow up fast.
I don't know who that would be.
So you've often said, Brian, and we're talking obviously around this, but we'll hit the point, is you've often said to embrace the new you. Because I've said to you before, in a lot of these changes where I've been either trying to make them or they're just making them for themselves, I've said to you that maybe I don't want to be that new person. And you've said, why don't you embrace that new person? A lot of times I think we don't often see those changes in ourselves, again, like your friend, until we're confronted with a similar situation that we've been through before. Now, she could be avoiding that situation because maybe she's hit this wall before, or maybe she's hit a similar wall like it.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew how that turned out for her before, and she doesn't want to do this again.
It could be.
Or it could be a whole new experience. And like me, she's having a hard time embracing that new person because that's a lot to deal with.
Well, I have to ask, and I guess I could ask you whether or not you want to answer or not is completely up to you.
Okay.
But I have to ask, what is the fear of the new as opposed to the fear of the now? Because oftentimes I see people in these situations or these lifestyles that they oftentimes hate where they're at. They hate themselves, they hate where they're at, they hate the situation. But then when you confront them with the idea of change, it's almost like they hate that more.
Okay.
But I sit there and say, well, you don't know.
I'm going to answer it for myself.
Okay.
For you.
Mm-hmm.
You asked me what I'm scared of. Is that how you worded it? Like, yeah, you said, what are you afraid of? Failure.
Well, haven't you already gotten there? So, because like my point is there's nothing you can attribute to the new that you are not already experiencing. You could say, well, what if it's worse? Yeah, there's always a what if. But sitting there and questioning it is not going to change what it could be.
What if it's worse than what it is?
What if it isn't?
Again, the if, right?
You can throw an if onto anything. You could even throw an if onto the now. What if I stayed the way I was? But I already hate where I'm at. Again, you've hit rock bottom. Where else do you have to go but up?
How do I know the up is better? And how do I know?
No, it might not be initially. Do you think that things that I've done to get where I'm at were always the better alternative? No, but it put me in a position of change. It put me in a position where I had to adapt. It put me in a situation where I had to admit that I had been battered so much to the point where I had nowhere else to go, that getting up again and again and again was the only and the best option.
So you were never afraid of failure?
I always thought of it as I die daily.
Wow. Explain.
That took you off guard, didn't it? Exactly that. Every day was a new me. Every day was a learning experience to change to the new person that I was, or that I will be. That every time I was confronted with something that I didn't like, it was become a new person or stay where I was at,
So do you always feel, or you always feel like you're changing? Like
yes.
Okay. So you don't feel like you're ever going to arrive, like there's a completion in this, not in this life, right?
No.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm asking you.
Finding a place where you're comfortable is when you're there.
Is that?
But there's never an opportunity where I can sit here and tell you that I've arrived and I'm no longer looking.
And that's what going to be my next thing is, I don't know if that's ever a good place to be, though. Because then you've stopped learning, you've stopped trying, you've stopped, I don't know. And I don't think that that's a place in this life.
It's almost like becoming self-aware.
Yeah.
Of putting yourself in a position where you realize that you will never reach the top, but you will always get higher than you were the previous day.
Right. It's not a bad thing. I think for me, and I can't speak for your friend, but for me, I think it's the fear factor of failing. And I don't know what I'm afraid of failing in.
Well, that
I don't know.
that interpretation is up to everybody. I'm not saying it's an invalid answer, you know. Yeah, we're all afraid. But
Even you?
oh yeah.
Are you afraid to fail?
I'm more afraid of quitting than failing.
Okay. Wow. That's good. That means you're always growing. It's a good place to be. So I can honestly say with that, though, Brian, that speaking for myself, I know, and you said it earlier, that you see changes in me. Yes, and you admitted it, but I'll admit it, I'm not there. But I know I definitely handle situations different in life than I used to. Just as you, right? So in our life experiences, there is no doubt we change. Not only in our mindsets, but in our actions. And we talked about this, I don't know, Brian, if it was earlier this week. It wasn't that long ago anyway when we did. But as we rethink things, we also begin to act differently. We handle situations differently than we used to. And one of the things that you and I had talked about was that before we may have handled situations through emotions, but as we change and get older, emotions should not rule us like they used to. I think it was a situation where you had come home the other day from work and you had said that what you find with a lot of people is that the way they handle their situations, instead of just stopping, maybe analyzing their situation and handling it from a mindset of maybe maturity, common sense, those types of things. You said a lot of people you feel today tend to let their emotions dictate their situations, which makes it worse.
So much worse.
Do you find that in older people as well as younger, or more?
Oh, that's an all-age thing. Especially in today's world, absolutely emotions drive everything that our society does. Nobody stops and thinks. Nobody stops and thinks for themselves. They think people are selfish.
True.
People are extremely selfish. And in that, they oftentimes will react to situations through emotion because it makes them feel better. Makes them feel validated, which to me tells me that you were not hugged enough as a child. Sorry, not sorry, but it's true. You know, people are not put in situations where their lifestyles are questioned. See, for me, growing up, I was put in a lot of situations where I had to deal with things myself. And oftentimes in doing that, I learned to rely more on logic and reason and examine the situation around me as opposed to reacting out of pure emotion. Because I don't care who you are. If you want to know how emotion destroys all of us, turn on the news.
No kidding, huh? That's all that does is feed your emotion. And then you're angry and you're on Facebook writing angry messages to people instead of just stepping back and really analyzing the situation.
I hyperanalyze everything.
You do. And I'm not saying that emotions are bad, because obviously we all have feelings.
Emotions to me is like fuel. But fuel alone is not what runs the vehicle. It's just what helps push it forward.
Okay. Keep going.
You see where I'm getting at?
I do. But keep going.
So you got to have multiple parts running at the same time to get the car to move forward. You can have a full tank of gas, but if you're not pushing that accelerator, that car ain't moving. If you don't have oil lubricating the engine, your engine's going to seize up. Everything has to work together in balance. And that's the one thing that emotional and broken people will do to put themselves in a far worse situation instead of just stopping and coasting.
Yeah, it's true. Because you see a lot of that, like with lashing out. And that's where I'm saying with my mindset, I'm trying to step back and not let my emotions dictate how I handle my situations. Because before I was like that. You know, I've always been known as the person who has a very strong personality, is very outspoken, quick to judge, quick to act, quick to say something hurtful. But I'm trying to be better in that. So when you use the car analogy, I don't want to be the car that just uses the fuel. You know what I mean? I want to be, as my mindset changes, I'm hoping to be that person that maybe instead of being that person that I used to be, that I'll stop. Maybe just stop the car for a minute. You know, you said coast. Okay. I'm not saying that those situations can't be used at time, but I think sometimes you need to step back and really see where you're going. And that speaks a lot to me, that when you handle those situations, not just through emotions, but you now are using your life experiences, right? Because this is where I'm coming from. My life experience have done that. My life lessons have done that. But I hope more than anything, my maturity in life has done that.
Well, it's not even just maturity, because you got to have discipline to back up that maturity. I've seen many mature adults just fall apart at the seams when things go wrong, or when something doesn't go their way.
What went wrong?
I mean, again, I can't really say personally, depending on the circumstances, but like for general, I guess where you could say like lashing out. A lot of times there's something in their lives that have brought them to the realization that lashing out is the only way that they can relieve their situations. Something happened before that they never grew from.
Mm-hmm.
They let that batter them, but they didn't want to acknowledge the getting back up part.
Yes. And that's...
It's essentially victim mentality.
It is.
Which is why I refuse to ever be the victim in anything.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to say when I speak for myself, that I hope as my mindset is changing, and I hope that we're helping those of you out there with our situations the way we're trying to grow. Not that we've arrived, but I know for me it's an everyday thing. I know for you it's an everyday thing to be that better person, no matter how somebody else treats you. Because what they do to you, you have no control over. Right? But you do have control over you. Mm-hmm. So be the bigger person. Yes, I know. But I'm hoping that my experiences, my life lessons, common sense, maturity, all play a factor in it.
Balance. I'm
trying to be that mature person. You know, again, I will say this on the other side of the coin. There are times when lashing out, for lack of a better way to explain it, may be necessary.
Well, let's use that car analogy again. We can sit there and say there are times where coasting is necessary. But then there are other times when you might need to get around an obstacle where you need to put your foot down and put that fuel into use.
Right.
Balance.
Yeah. And I'm hoping learning that, because the thing is, Brian, I can speak for myself and say that I've thought back on life when I would do those things, and I thought, God, how many people did I hurt? You know, to me that affects me. Now, it may not affect others or you or whatever, but I just look at those situations and think, if I could have only handled those situations then like I do now, not to say that I'm perfect, but...
Well, I guess I have to, we'd have to examine what exactly you mean when you say what did I do that hurt people? I would have to sit there and say, well, did you feel that you put your own feelings into consideration?
My own
feelings? Because
feelings?
I've seen people get really hurt by how they may have treated somebody or how they didn't treat somebody. But the one thing that I notice is that a lot of times, regardless of the outcome, they would always be the one more hurt, and the other person would be just fine.
Oh, wow.
But they would think, did what I do affect them as much as I think it did?
Or maybe the way I handled it, maybe it was okay.
Yeah.
Because maybe it was called for.
Or maybe it was the way that it would have
In that
benefited
situation.
you in that situation. Exactly. Yeah. This is why I'm very reactive when it comes to things that may end up hurting me in the long run, because I don't want it to hurt me, or at least soften the impact.
Okay.
Sometimes, and as cruel as this sounds, sometimes you have to be willing to hurt the other person to keep yourself from getting even more hurt.
It's true. I think I've been on both sides of that situation, but I will tell you this, Brian, I think more times, again, speaking for myself, I think more times than not, though, I did it out of bad intention, meaning this: hurt people. And if I was hurting, you're going to hurt too. But I don't want to be that person that tears everybody down. Yes, I know sometimes it's called for. That's not what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But the change of who I want to embrace, I want that balance. And I understand everywhere you're coming from and what you're saying.
Right.
But I think for me, looking back at those situations, I hope people can look at me now and say, wow, you are different. And those are a good thing.
Yeah.
That's what I hope.
That's the best thing to hope for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because you're only responsible for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You really are.
Excuse me.
Yeah. No, go ahead. So I seen a post.
Hey, everyone. Sorry, you'll notice a cut in the video. My computer was dying because I forgot to plug it in. And as soon as I plugged it in,
it stopped recording.
Yeah.
And then we realized it and we're like, whoa.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, well, that's not good. So after sitting here thinking about it for a second, I was like, okay, I can fix it. So here we are. We're back.
We're back.
Continue where you left off. You said you saw a post.
Okay. I saw a post from one of my friends, and it says, I love when I realize I'm handling a situation better than my old self would have. This is a part of embracing the new you. So when people say, I'm battered, I want you to also say, but I'm not broken. Because those changes are good. And that's where, I kind of wanted to not only take the podcast tonight, but that's where I think we'll leave it. Do you have anything else you want to add to that, Brian?
Well, it's like, in relation to what you just read with that quote, I often tell people to never look at yourself being beaten down by life or situations as the end.
Right.
Because the end is very far away when you are willing to get back up.
Oh, wow. So the ride might be a little shorter if you're willing to pick yourself up.
No, and the ride may still be rough.
Yep.
But you have the ability and the willpower to get back up from it. Because the end only happens when you do lay down and give up.
Right. Endurance and perseverance.
Wow, it's like it was last week's episode.
Wow. That was awesome. Yeah, that's good. So I'm going to leave you with our quote that I always leave you with. Believe in yourself, be patient with yourself, and know that your best is always good enough. Again, we can be found on many different platforms like YouTube, Spotify, now X, and Apple. Please like, share, subscribe, and turn on any notifications so that you don't miss another podcast. Also, our email is giveemheck@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Post anything, good, bad, or ugly. And again, share with your friends so we can put ourselves out there to help others to, maybe get a different perspective. Because it's always our desire to give hope, encouragement, and change. So we'll wrap it up for tonight.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.